What's up, college football fans, quarterback fans? Welcome to a QB Spotlight video, right? This is a little bit different than usual. We're not doing a video breakdown. We don't have an interview on right now. We're going to be talking about all the spring games that have happened so far in the quarterback competitions, right? We're not going to get caught up too much in the spring game, but I think there's some value in certain games and definitely going to help us kind of detail and kind of have an idea of who is ahead in these quarterback competitions, because we've got several quarterback competitions going on, right? So if this is your first time watching, thanks for tuning in. We do quarterback breakdowns every week. We do quarterback interviews with current and former college quarterbacks, pro quarterbacks. We just do anything that's related to the quarterback position is all fair game here, right? So if this is your first time and you enjoy quarterback content, or if you think this video is somewhat watchable, please consider subscribing and liking all that YouTube stuff. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into the games. I think that the number one quarterback competition that I'm kind of keeping up with, and probably the rest of the country is, unless you're a fan of a certain team, is Georgia. And by the time you're watching this video, one quarterback may have already transferred by now. I don't know, right? If you paid attention to what's been going on the past day or two, Brock Vandagriff came out and said, and I forget the exact quote, but he wasn't sure about his future with Georgia. He said there's going to be some praying to do. So that tells me he's definitely considering options, considering what to do next, considering the fact that he came out and said that openly, right? Now, if we look at the game, Carson Beck, I thought, played really, really good, right? He did good in the pocket. He showed a strong arm. He just had command of the offense. And Brock Vandagriff, not that he didn't do well, but it was just a little bit differently, right? Like he is more along the lines of making some things happen with his feet, at least as of right now. But man, hell, he's a great athlete, strong arm. So I think regardless what ends up with the Georgia quarterback competition, I think they're going to have some success. But as of now, it seems to be Carson Beck is the guy. He played really, really well. And you don't just make a decision based off a spring game, of course. But I think with reports that are practice of him playing well and him being several years into the Georgia program, even though you have a new OC, I think that bodes well for Carson Beck most likely being the guy. Now, can you keep Brock Vandagriff? Can you keep Gunnar Stockton? You're probably going to keep at least one of them. I would imagine Gunnar Stockton staying, and based off what we saw the other night and kind of reading the tea leaves, I would not be surprised if Brock Vandagriff is in the transfer portal. Hell, he might already be in the transfer portal as of you watching this video. But as of right now, he has not entered the portal. There just is maybe some potential interest. But I think any program would be lucky to have him, right? If you're watching this video, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And if you have an idea of where Vandagriff should go, let us know in the comments right now. Let us know where you think he should go, or maybe he's already in the portal and where you think is a good fit for him. Let us know. But again, the Georgia competition, whoever ends up on top, I think is going to have a lot of success because you have so many great players around you, right? And again, this is one of my favorite competitions right now with the Georgia Bulldogs. It's not every year you have a big quarterback competition with the number one team coming back in the number one team in the nation, right? So with that said, another really, really interesting quarterback competition, which I don't think is as clear as a Georgia competition, is Ohio State. Losing C.J. Stroud, you have several NFL draft picks back-to-back years from that position, and now we got Kyle McCord, and Devin Brown, right? Devin Brown was not able to play in the spring game this past Saturday. There was a finger injury or finger issue, but I don't think it's too serious. He should be back throwing relatively soon. But McCord had a chance to, I think, really have a stronghold or a grasp on this competition, and I don't think he has that quite yet. Not saying that he won't. I still think he's the favorite. I still think he probably opens up, but I wouldn't bet either way, if I'm being honest here. McCord did some good things, right? But then also some things that he needed to work on. If you go back and read the press clippings and kind of what Ryan Day said, there were some good things he did and some things that they wanted to work on. Now, they didn't have his full, weapons to throw to, so you want to take that with a grain of salt. But at the same time, similar to the Georgia competition, I think whoever wins is probably going to be really, really good and probably the top two quarterback in the Big Ten. Just if you go off track record, if you go off Ryan Day and himself and how he's developed quarterbacks. But I still think this is an open competition. Devin Brown going to be a little different player than Kyle McCord, right? We put out a video comparing the two if you're interested in going back and watching. But Kyle McCord, he's athletic enough. He can move. He's not a statue. Got a strong arm, can rip it. There's a reason he was one of the best quarterbacks in high school when he came out. But Devin Brown is going to be a bit more athletic. You can use him in the run game if you need to. He's probably able to make more throws and improvise more if he has to. But again, McCord can do some of that as well. I don't think there's too much of a variance where that's going to really matter. But I do think this quarterback competition will go on throughout fall camp, right? Unless we hear something otherwise. But it's not like McCord came out and just took that job with his hand, essentially. He didn't grasp that job during the spring game. So this is a competition that will continue going on, I think, into fall camp. And again, whoever wins this job is probably going to have a pretty dang good year. I know I'm talking a lot. I'm going to catch my breath and have a sip of water real quick. Please don't mind me. Good, that was needed. Any water companies want to sponsor the channel, please let us know. All right, so another quarterback competition that I don't think we have a ton of clarity on who's going to win this competition, but I think maybe we have an idea of who's in the lead right now, and that's Jackson Dart being in the lead at Ole Miss, right? All three quarterbacks played: Jackson Dart, Spencer Sanders, and Will Howard. I think this is maybe the most fascinating quarterback competition in college football right now, because we got Dart, the returning starter, Spencer Sanders, who started for forever at Oklahoma State with a ton of experience. Then we got Will Howard, who may be the best quarterback out of all of them when it's all said and done, just based on his potential. But he may not even be the second-string guy. Who knows, right? But with the spring game, all three played well. I think Dart probably had the best showing. I think there were some good things to see from their running back, from, what's his name, Bentley, right? Bentley from the SMU transfer from 2 years ago. So I think that, again, like Georgia, like Ohio State, whoever wins this job is probably going to have a pretty good amount of success because of the weapons that are around you and because of who's calling the plays in Lane Kiffin. So I think whoever wins this job is going to be developed, right? I think best case scenario, from my opinion, is Jackson Dart winning the job. That means he's progressing, taking steps forward. Like last year was only his first year starting, and now he was inconsistent, up and down. I know Ole Miss fans, want Matt Corral type status right off the bat, but I think if he's able to learn this offense, which it seems like he has, he's had a full offseason, he's been able to go through camp, like I think he can really have a good year next year in the SEC. And so my bet is on Jackson Dart right now. But again, who knows? Spencer Sanders didn't transfer there to back up. I know he was dealing with some type of small injury, but I think he's totally fine right now. And he has a ton of experience. I think he's it's almost like what you're getting with Spencer Sanders. And then when you come to Will Howard, I think he could be the surprise of them all. I don't know if he starts this year or next year or what happens, but I think he has a ton of potential. He's a huge recruit, to LSU before he transferred. So I think if you're an Ole Miss fan, I think you're in a really good position. I think competition breeds excellence. So when you surround three really good quarterbacks and you have that competition and you have that just competitive nature with each one, I think the cream rises to the top. And so hopefully this helps Jackson Dart take that next step and end up winning the starting job. I think that's the best case scenario. Then you have Will Howard, who can develop one more year, then take over, and Spencer Sanders, I don't know. But again, whoever wins, I think it's going to be a successful showing at the quarterback position because of Lane Kiffin, and you're going to see an improvement from last year. Let's move on to Austin, Texas, where I reside. I'm about 35 minutes away from the college in Austin, Texas, otherwise known as the University of Texas. Now, this does not seem to be like a quarterback competition anymore. At the same time, you always want to be competing. So I think you can compete even with Quinn Ewers being the starting quarterback, even with the start coming out and saying, hey, I think we know who the starting quarterback is, even though he might not have said 100%. That's in football lingo and football terms and coaching terminology, that's 100% for Quinn Ewers, our starting quarterback. He did a lot of good things. He did everything you wanted to see in camp from what we've heard. He did everything you wanted to see in the spring game. He took the next step. As of everything we're hearing, he's taken on to the offense. I think competition, like the Ole Miss job like we talked about, competition really breeds excellence. And so I think this competition really helped take Quinn Ewers to the next level. Arch Manning, not going to spend that much time on Arch Manning, but if you're on the belief that he's not going to have a successful career because he struggled in the spring game, I would recommend and encourage you to reconsider that belief. I think in a few years he'll be a first-round draft pick. Who the hell cares how he did in the spring game, right? Just to be frank and be honest. We've had a ton of quarterbacks play really well in spring games and then not even be the starting quarterback. We've had a ton of quarterbacks not play well and come out and ball out in the season, right? So if I'm Arch Manning, or if I'm someone who's being critical of Arch Manning, sure, he looked like a freshman, need to improve on some things, but whatever. In a few years, he's going to be a first-round draft pick, right? And he's probably going to start for Texas. the next 2 years after Quinn Ewers goes and is probably a first-round draft pick if he has the season he wants to have this year. But before I move on to another school, I want to spend a few minutes, or at least 1 or 2 minutes, talking about quarterback Maalik Murphy, because he's one that's easily forgotten about. He was a big recruit a few years, 2 years ago. He was a freshman last year, and he was a big recruit. But I think he really showed out, man. I think he really, really played well. And I think he demonstrated his ability. It's almost like free agent or preseason for the NFL. Whether he transfers or stays, he showed his ability to a lot of other teams. So I'm imagining there's a lot of teams that are going to want to get involved or maybe try to poach him, if you will. I'm just speculating right now, so take that with a grain of salt. But go back and watch Maalik Murphy's clips. You can probably find it on YouTube. But he looked really good. Super strong arm. Could freaking sling the rock, make any throw you want. Good athlete. Big quarterback who I think is pretty polished. And he's had a year plus in Sark's offense and kind of learning the offense. But just not even the offense, but learning how to be a college quarterback, go through the system. I think if he ends up at Texas, man, this could be... It could end up well for him in Texas, but at the same time, if he transfers somewhere else, man, that school is getting a really, really good quarterback in Maalik Murphy. Again, Maalik Murphy, if you don't know the name, go back, watch the clips. He's an NFL-style quarterback. He can... Man, he can rip it. All right, just go check him out. As Nick Saban would say, go check him out. He's a really good quarterback, underrated quarterback, maybe the most underrated quarterback in college football right now. But again, quarterback room for Texas. Don't think competition is going on right now. Quinn Ewers seems to be the guy. But at the end of the day, I think you're set in a good position from the quarterback room. Let's move on to College Station, right across a few hours away from Austin, Texas, with Texas A&M. And their quarterback room is probably not as solidified as Texas right now, right? We got Connor Wigman and Max Johnson, and no one really blew anyone out of the water within that quarterback competition. Max Johnson probably played better if you're just going off the spring game. Now, it can be hard to judge. The field was like 60 or 70 yards. They're doing construction on the field right now, so they don't have the full length of the stadium to work with, but you saw some things, and you saw Johnson throw a touchdown pass early in the game. That's good to get him going. I still think the job is Wigman's. I think he's still the favorite, but I don't think it's as clear as maybe it was at the beginning of spring ball. I think Max Johnson has made that quarterback competition closer than maybe people really think. He's experienced. He's had success in an SEC offense before and against the SEC schedule when he was at LSU. Like I'm high on Max Johnson. I think if he ends up being the starter, you could still play well at A&M. I just think Wigman probably has a higher ceiling. Like, Wigman's a super talented guy, better athlete than Johnson, has a stronger arm. So I think if he's able to continue to develop as far as the field and offense and processing defenses, he's probably still the guy, especially with Petrino's offense, what he's bringing in. But I don't think it's a clear cut that he's for sure the guy right now. I just think he's the favorite, and this will probably go into fall camp. So again, Wigman's probably the favorite, at least from the outside looking in. Maybe we're completely wrong. This is, again, we're just speculating on all these competitions. But again, I think Wigman's probably the favorite, but Johnson's making it pretty close. Guys, if you like the video, please subscribe, like, all that stuff. It does help us. Let us know in the comments below who you think your favorite quarterbacks are in these quarterback competitions, or if you agree or disagree with me or something, let us know in the comments below. And again, this isn't a live show, but maybe we'll, if we get some traction, we'll start making these weekly quarterback talks or quarterback shows live. Let's move on real quick, cover 3 more teams, and again, we'll do another quarterback spring competition show next week after we have some more spring games coming in, right, like Alabama and so forth. But let's finish with these 3 schools. Let's go Florida first. Florida is probably the most wide open battle right now. Their starting quarterback may not even be on the roster right now, if you're asking me, right? Graham Mertz, Jack Miller, no one really stood ahead of each other in the spring game. Graham Mertz has way more experience, so I think he's probably the guy right now just based off that. But that's not enough reason to give him the starting job. Jack Miller's only start was the bowl game against Oregon State, which wasn't a great showing, but it's a bowl game. How much stock are you really going to put into that? So I think from the spring side of things, the spring game, I think if you read the tea leaves and saw what Billy Napier said, it seems like they're going after another quarterback in the transfer portal. Who that is, I don't know. If you're a Florida fan or if you have an idea of who maybe they could go after, let us know in the comments below, right? You've heard a bunch of different names kind of circle around. It might be a guy from the group of 5 level come in. But I think when it's all said and done by, it's April 18th, so I think you have till the 30th. for the transfer portal window to close. I think when it's all said and done, there's going to be some really good quarterbacks in the portal looking at a school like Florida to potentially go to. And I think Florida is in need of a quarterback. Not saying that Miller or Mertz can't perform well. They certainly can. Again, it's just a spring game and spring practice. But from the outside looking in, you kind of know what you have with Mertz. You've seen his production at Wisconsin. Maybe getting around better athletes will help. But at the same time, I think if you add another quarterback in, it's only going to make the competition better, and maybe that quarterback you add in ends up winning the job. Let's talk 2 more schools. Let me get a sip of water real quick. Again, if you want to sponsor us, let us know. Boom. Okay, so last 2 schools. Let's go with Auburn real quick. That's a wide open competition, similar to Florida. If you're a quarterback that is wanting to enter the transfer portal and you think you're pretty good, you want to look at Auburn from, one, Gus Malzahn. Like, why wouldn't you want to play in that offense if you're a good athletic quarterback that can throw? You saw what he's done in the past. And then 2, there's no clear-cut starter. Who's the starting quarterback? I wouldn't be surprised if one of the quarterbacks right now ends up transferring. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Again, you want to take with a grain of salt. This spring game happened not this past weekend, but 2 weekends ago, and it was rainy, bad weather. Only a few passes were complete. Ashford's probably the guy right now, but TJ Finley being there, and they had one other young, I forget the guy's name, but he's a younger cat who is competing as well, but it's probably between Ashford and TJ Finley, probably going with Ashford to be in the lead. But I wouldn't be surprised if the starting quarterback isn't on the roster right now, just like Florida. But again, a lot to take away here. At the same time, there really isn't much to watch because it was bad weather in the spring game. So there wasn't a lot to take away from the game, but there's a lot to take away from the position, the battle itself. Last school we're going to finish with is Tennessee, and they're not really a quarterback competition right now. I know at the beginning of spring camp it was being flowed like it was a quarterback competition. You heard reports that Nico may be taking Milton's spot at some point this year. Don't think that's necessarily the case, and we put out a video saying why it's beneficial for Joe Milton to be the starter, so go back and check that out. Milton played fine in the spring game. You saw some exciting things from Nico, that great throw on the run, 30-something yards downfield on a line, hit the receiver in stride. Go check that video out. Hell, maybe we'll put the video here if I'm figure out how to do all the media stuff. But Tennessee, don't think it's really a quarterback competition at all. I think it's Milton's job. I think best case scenario, Milton plays well this year, gets drafted. Nico can learn a full offseason, can learn a full season, and learn what it means to be a college quarterback, and then take over after that, right? So again, don't think as much competition. Just wanted to mention Tennessee since they had their spring game. There are a lot of more spring games that happened, but maybe didn't have the hierarchy, if you will, as far as the quarterback competition goes, as these schools did that we just mentioned. So that's it for our first actual quarterback show, right? If you like this stuff, man, please consider subscribing, like the video, all that YouTube stuff. It really does help. Let us know in the comments below what quarterback competition really stands out for you. What quarterback competition are you most excited to keep up with and to seek, right? I think, like we talked about, regardless who wins all these jobs, they're probably going to have a pretty decent amount of success at the quarterback position just because they have a lot of good athletes around them. But like, subscribe, let us know in the comments below your favorite competition. We'll see you next time. Check us out on YouTube, and we have a podcast, all that fun stuff. But again, like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. It helps the channel. We'll see you next time. Peace.